Hi, guys. Welcome back to the MVM Show. Today I got a guest on that's more than just a guest. He's a friend. I've known Ben from Motion Ducks for a long time. Ben, good to have you back on the show again today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. This will be fun.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a
Yeah,
minute.
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, so we got several things to cover, guys. If you guys don't know about this product that we're getting ready to talk about, and we're not going to spend the whole conversation talking about Motion Ducks, but I know for a fact it's something that I want everybody that's listening to hear about because it's a product, it's a tool. You can almost call it a weapon for duck hunting that I can tell you we've killed so many birds over. And there's a reason that, Ben, I don't know, we met, I want to say 5 years ago. Was it
Yeah,
6 years
yeah,
ago
that's
at the
right.
Sportsman's Show
Yeah,
in Sac?
in Sacramento. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably 5 or 6 years ago now. Yep.
And there's no way we still wouldn't be talking if it wasn't something that worked so well. You guys know, and I know you know this because I've got a lot of feedback of it. You guys know I do not talk about something and try to say it works good just to get something free. You know, I only use it if I believe in it because I'm a duck hunter and I'm there using it. And if it works, I'm going to use it. So anyways, Ben, we've had some episodes with you on where you kind of talked about how you came up with it, which you guys can go back and look for that in the history. I don't really want to go into that right now. I really want to go into what has this done for you as far as yourself, your personal testimony, and what have you heard from others, how much it works and how does it work?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that when we developed this thing, I actually made a prototype, and it was this little mini version thing, and put it in my hot tub with blocks of wood as the ducks. And that's where it started. But I made a bigger prototype and gave it to my dad and said, "Dad, you got to see this thing." And we took it out and hunted with it ourselves. And it worked so good. We were like, we have to try to develop this thing. And even our buddies were like, don't do it. Don't develop this thing. This is our secret, And so,
yeah, right. That's how we all are with good stuff, right?
So our own personal experience, the whole thing started because it worked so well. And it was like the second to last weekend of the year. And what we found as we were developing it, we were testing it out in some water, and this bass fisherman drove by on his boat fishing slow. And he's like, "Whatever you have right there in the water, I'll give you $150 for it."
Really?
And we were like, "Well, it's a prototype. We're just working on it. We can't sell it to you." But we were like, "Oh my word!" This random bass fisherman, who's also a duck hunter, saw it and was like, "I have to have that." So that was
Wow.
like as we were developing it. So we knew we kind of had something good, and there wasn't anything on the market that really did what we were building. There's been jerk strings and stuff like that. Then as we released it and our customers started using it, especially at things like the sportsman shows, we'd sell one year, and that customer would come back to us in Sacramento. We had a family, a dad and two sons, come back to us, and one of the boys was like, gave us hugs. He's like, "We love this thing so much." And what it did for them was it gave them the ability to, they would hike in quite a ways to, and they'd bring carts and they'd pack in and everything. It gave them the ability to pack in lighter, bring less decoys, but still be effective. So they were able to get into the spots quicker. They were able to, set up and tear down was much less effort, but they still shot a lot of ducks. In fact, they said that they shot more ducks using just the system. So, I mean, we hear that loads and loads. The product is simply about making the most realistic motion in your decoy spread, right? And you do that, and it just makes a difference, especially when you're hunting educated birds that have been shot at a lot, high pressured areas. And I mean, it works because it looks realistic. I think that's really what it comes down to.
100%. And by the way, guys, I was meant to mention this at the beginning, but we have a new code if you guys have ever used this before, maybe it's the first time you're hearing about it. It used to be MVM 10, but now it's Mid Valley. That other code will not work. So Mid, MIDVALLEY, all one word. If you guys go to check it out. And what's your, before we get going too much, Ben, what's all your website and your social media and all that?
Yeah, just across the board, it's Motion Ducks. Website's motionducks.com. And then we also developed the product for you. This special, you can get the anchor bag free if you go to motionducks.com/MVM.
Oh, okay. That's still live then.
That's
Perfect.
still live. And then use the MVM code. That'll get you 10% off. So there's a special product there as well. But yeah, motionducks.com/MVM.
Okay, cool. And then
and then social media, it's just Motion Ducks across the board.
Okay, perfect. And just they would use the code Mid Valley, right?
Yeah, Mid Valley, and that'll get you 10% off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Okay, so I guess just real quick for you to hear as a product.
Can you edit this out? I got the garbage, man.
That's okay.
Load the dumpster. Can you hear that?
Barely. Honestly, barely.
Okay. It's loud to me. It's right behind me.
No, you're good. Hey, we just roll. We just roll on this. I had somebody banging on my window. I had somebody banging on my window in the middle of one. I just leave it because it's everybody knows.
I mean,
everybody knows
this in too. I don't care.
Yeah, I will.
It's just it's
hey,
so
this is real life, man. I'm not in no $10,000 studio. So funny. It is what it is. I think that's what people like is the realism of it. So anyways, I've actually had my daughter running here in the middle of recording. So yeah, that stuff happens, but
yeah, it's fine.
Anyways, so you said something earlier in this that struck a chord that I think I know what you were saying, but maybe the listener didn't. And what you were saying is how light it is, how easy it folds down to basically nothing. But what I think you were saying, maybe I could be wrong, but what I'll express more clearly is, guys, you don't know how many hunts I've went on where I was packing in. I didn't have room to carry 2 dozen decoys, nor did I need to, because I had 4 decoys already pre-set up on the Motion Ducks, locked in. And when you fold it up, these little rods are kind of like camping tent poles almost, so to speak. They fold in, throw it on my shoulder. I got my backpack on. I got 4 decoys, light decoys. Like I like the Dakota decoy, the light, the packable ones. It's just because they're super light. It's nothing for no other reason than that. Throw that over my shoulder. My anchor bag, which don't weigh that much, 8, 10 ounces, whatever. Throw that in my bag with the string, and boom, I'm headed out with my shotgun slung over my shoulder. And I can't tell you how many birds I've killed with that. Just that setup. Because here's my deal. This is what I always say. Would you rather have 4 dozen stagnant stale decoys sitting out of the water with no ripples, or would you have 4 decoys that look like real birds swimming around?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key, right? Like, especially as you get further into the season and the ducks get smarter and smarter, they know what a decoy spread is. Yeah, I mean, they just do. They see all the setups, and they know what a decoy spread is. You know, if somebody that hunts a lot has absolutely experienced, even if you don't hunt a lot, you go out and you're hunting educated birds, and there's birds all over, and you might not even get a shot. And you got to change that up. The smarter they get, you got to change that up. So what we typically do is, as the season progresses, we're using less and less still decoys and only motion by the end. And you could go the other route. You know, there's some guys who'll set up, 200-300 decoys if they have the ability to do so. And that can make a difference as well, because you're showing the birds something different, something where they want to be. But most typical hunters don't have that ability. So you go smaller and go only motion. That day that we were testing it, we had 4 decoys, and so what happened was, we were hunting the Columbia River, and this spot on the river, probably every 300 yards, there's a duck blind. So there's probably 10 or 12 duck blinds along this whole stretch of river. And we had set up a typical decoy spread the day before And my dad and I were like, let's just go try it. Just this. And we went and found this little pocket, and we shot a 5-man limit in about an hour and 15 minutes.
Wow.
And the day before, we didn't even limit. I don't even think we shot half our limit the day before using a standard spread. And it's just because we were this little tiny pocket, and there was only a few birds, but they were all swimming. And the ducks just lit up and dumped in. So that's what we experience. You have to show the ducks something realistic and go smaller. Go only a few decoys if you're hunting really heavy, heavy pressure, smart, educated birds. That's one of the things that we found works so effectively. And on top of that, the system, you like to use the 4 system, but we built it modular. So you can take a single system of 4 and add another one to it, and you'll get 7 decoys on that rig. And then that 7 decoys starts moving a little bit different. What we've started seeing now is that we hook up 2 of those 7s on one. So you have 14 decoys on one jerk line. And so when you're hunting a little bit bigger of a spread, you hook up 2 of those ultimates, and holy smokes, we have a couple of videos on it. It just looks insane. One guy working 14 decoys, and they're all moving, and they look like they're moving in different directions. And honestly, it takes like 7 or 8 minutes to set up. It's super easy to set up. You can do so much with the system because it's built modularly, and you can hunt just the 4 in small pockets, or you can add on and have a small flock of decoys where everything's moving. Makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. And if someone was going to ask me, Titus, if you had to pick, let's say 2 pulsators or a motion X, I honestly, truly, I'm saying it the truth right now, I would pick the other one here, and I'll give you some reasons why. I'm not just saying that, seriously. One of them is sound. And I think some people say, well, if they're hearing that pulsator, they should already be dead. Yes and no. On a calm, still day, it's surprising how much noise a pulsator can make. And I believe a pulsator has its place, and I like them. I use them for certain scenarios and everything. But if someone was to say, which one would you pick? I would still pick the jerk string, the motion ducks, because you got multiple off of one. And yes, you're using your manpower, so to speak, but you have no sound. There's nothing there. And it's so realistic looking. Not that a butt of a duck going and splashing is not necessarily, but there's an edge to that of them just swimming and causing that ripple. And the ripple that it makes is actually quite a big area. And like you said, that's not even me using the ultimate spreader, like you said. And I need to do that more. But when we're using it, it's usually because like we're packing in super tight, like I said, and you're just trying to go minimal. But I mean, it's you can go on our channel. You guys can watch it. Go just on our channel specifically and type in motion ducks. Go to Ben's channel. What's it? Your YouTube channel is motion ducks, right?
Yep.
And you guys, he has some great hunts on there, by the way, too. We're going to get into some things about that here in a little bit. But I don't want to leave too early on this product because it's so cheap if you look at it for what it does. And and the fact that you and your dad behind it and how you guys take care of everything, how quick you guys get it out, it's just something I've believed in since I first seen it in Sacramento at that show.
Yeah. In fact, I think was it you that I saw it in one of your videos after you bought it? Because we didn't work together immediately.
No.
I think I had seen you using it, and then I called you and was like, "Hey, you want to actually like make this official?" Was that?
Yeah,
I think
that was me. Actually, out of everybody, I know you work with some of my buddies, the Flyboys Collective and everything.
Yep.
I was the original one, and I had told you about them.
That's right.
Yeah, I was teasing Jordan the other day. I was like, "Don't forget," because I was like, "Man, you guys always bring stuff to the table. Am I not bringing anything to the table?" I go, "Wait a minute." I brought motion ducks to the table. They're like, "Yeah, you did. That was a good one too, because Ben's a great guy, and we worked together for a long time, and the product's amazing. Like everybody loves it. Every duck hunter does."
it's been so great working with all those guys, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
My
now
buddy,
hopefully this year, we'll get into it more, but hopefully this year we can get a hunt together, because you might be coming out to the property. We'll get to it, but
yeah,
that might happen.
I'm actually looking forward to that. Like I said, you guys need to check his channel, because they've got some sweet stuff going on there. But like you said, yeah, I guess we could roll into that. I don't want to leave this too early. There was something else I wanted to say about the product, and my mind just went blank.
I would say, here's the deal. If people are considering it, the two scenarios where we say it's absolutely invaluable, you have to have it, is when you're hunting bluebird days, when there's no motion, it's just calm. It creates so many ripples. It's a big, like 9-10 foot, chunk of decoys all moving around. That's what the ultimate gives you. And then, so those bluebird days where it's super calm. And then secondly, when you're hunting really, really educated birds, when you're hunting high pressure public spots, or when it's late season, those two other scenarios, it's like, it makes such a huge difference, difference. When we're in the middle of the season, birds are still, still a little bit dumb. Maybe even kind of mid to early season, we'll do the decoy thing. We'll throw out a bunch of decoys, but as we get later and as they get smarter, we're hunting motion. So I would say those scenarios is where we have found it to be such a difference maker in your decoy spread.
Yep. I know what I was going to say. You triggered it in my mind. After the first week of season, the birds are pressured. Pretty much.
They are.
Right?
Yeah, they are. They really are.
So it's really something you could use from the beginning to the end, because after the first week, we all know the birds learn quick until you get those migrators pushing down into new areas. You're constantly dealing with that. And another thing is, if you were to say a ratio, and you're up in Washington, so it might be different for you, but guys in California or even other states, I know tons of states listen to this. How often do you have the perfect stormy, windy day versus having the calm, windless day? More often than not, we're having days that are bluebird days, and you're like, man, if I could just get a little bit of movement in the spread, it would make such a difference.
The vast majority of days. I even
every time
in preparation for this, I took some good notes last year of the ducks we shot and the type of weather. And I mean, the first 13, 14 hunts on this all say sunny.
Yep.
And
probably much wind, huh?
And there was hardly any wind last year. We have a pretty windy spring here, and so we were thinking, man, hopefully the fall, it just wasn't very windy at all, and we were kind of bummed by it. Like, where's our wind? We want some weather here. So, yeah, I mean,
what's funny about that is you end up having a crazy winter, didn't you? Later.
Oh yeah, the freeze. It got so cold really, really early, and blew a lot of.
But you just didn't get the wind, huh?
Yeah, it just didn't get a lot of wind. So we'll see.
So, and see, that's the thing is, you can have a ton of birds around, but if you have the stagnant, you don't have no wind. Yeah, you got a lot of birds around. You got the cold front end. This is great, but if it looks like every other decoy around the area, what good does it do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I guess we can move on, but it's just such a easy. If you're just setting up the original, it's a minute, if that. I mean, you could have it
10 seconds.
Yeah, you could have it pre-set up, like I'm saying, where I carry it like that. I literally go pop, 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 throw it out, hook the string, and walk away. That's 30 seconds. I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean,
and even the ultimate, you want to bring the ultimate out separately. Plug one in, put it in the water. That's 4 decoys, and then connect the other one to it. It takes, less than 2 minutes, honestly, to have that thing set up. And the cool thing about another feature that I really like is with a typical jerk line, you have to, set your anchor and unwind it and hook up all your decoys. So that's kind of a bit more annoying in and of itself, but you can't ever let that line go. Right? You always have to keep a little tension on that jerk line. Where our system, because it's those rods and it's held separately, if the wind kicks up and you don't want to use the jerk line anymore, walk out, disconnect the handle, and leave the 7 decoys out there. They'll just float around like another decoy. So
Yep.
that's super slick as well, because setting it up, tearing it down, having the ability to just have them float out there like, a group of decoys, it is pretty slick as well. It makes things quite a bit easier.
You're kind of nailing everything that I forget about, because that's what we do a lot too. Like you said, we've been out there before where we take it thinking it's going to be calm. Well, the weatherman's always wrong. And then it ends up being windy, but you already have it set up. Like, who cares? Throw it out. If
Yeah.
the wind dies off, boom, hook up the thing
Hook
and
it up
start using it.
and go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
it
have one
takes
set out every time, even if it's windy, because then
yeah,
if the wind does die, then we have the motion just ready. It takes
right.
5 seconds to
No, it's no extra effort
no extra
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So, well, let's move on. Maybe we'll think of some more stuff as we go. But wanted you to tell us about and talk about your new property, and also how you're managing it. Like, I feel like it's very intriguing to see how someone is like managing vegetation and how they're maybe doing some work in the off season and trimming and tearing and changing. Like, I think that would be such a blast to be able to manage something like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I'll start. For those that don't know, last year, so my dad and I run Motion Ducks together. And last year we had an opportunity to buy this land. We moved about 2.5, 3 hours away. And we bought this land that was developed in the 90s as a duck hunting property. And the guy that developed it put like waterways and, gates, and you can control water flow in certain ponds and stuff like that. And it is amazing. It is a dream come true. There's no doubt about it. There's 335 total acres. There's 65 acres of corn of a farm, which last year we weren't able to find a farmer for it. There's a longer story to that, but it's real irrigated. It's kind of difficult. Not a lot of people want to, not a lot of farmers want to deal with that. So last year we didn't have any corn. Well, this year we found a farmer. We partnered with a guy. So we have 65 acres of corn that we're going to be able to goose hunt in, which we're totally pumped about this year.
Awesome.
And then it's got this network of ponds, and we were able to pull the trigger on that, and it's been awesome. So last year was a complete learning year. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't even know really where the ducks were going to be working the best,
Mm-hmm.
what ponds were going to be hunting the best. We built these ponds and worked on this stuff that we never even hunted one time. The ducks just didn't work there. They just didn't like it, right? For one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
So this year we have a lot more knowledge. We know a lot more. But yeah, we've planted corn in a bunch of different spots just as like testing, like to try to see where the corn will grow. We don't have irrigation down there, so it all has to be either flooded or sub-irrigated. So you have to have kind of the right spot in order for it to have enough moisture in the ground, but not too much. Okay. And so we had one really successful plot of corn this year that we'll be hunting. We'll be trying now. That was great. We planted in like 3 or 4 other spots that didn't go so well. The water just came too high and kind of drowned it all out. But there's that. And then we've planted millet in a couple of spots. Yeah. And we're just trying to, over the years, we want to learn where it's best to plant feed and how to develop, where the birds work the best, what time of year, So at this point, it's just a learning process, but man, it is a lot of fun. So,
I bet it is.
It is great. Yeah. It's fun.
And it's like experimenting too, kind of,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's it's a funny thing to experiment because you have to, plant the corn and hopefully it grows and then hunt it, so you really only learn yearly. You get to try something and then you learn the next year. So we have, as many things as we can manage between the two of us. We actually found a new section of the property that we rerouted some water and built a new pond this year. And so we have this new pond kind of built. We built like a dike or a little dam area to block the water, and it's been filling up. And so who knows? We'll see. We'll hunt that a couple of times and see how that goes, and that might develop into something cool. So we got all sorts of projects and plans, and yeah, it's.
Is it pretty easy for you to see, like, to get to places where you can always scout the property? Like, you have places where you can go to check in and see what birds are there, like the day before you're going to hunt it or whatever? Or is it kind of tough?
Yes and no. Some spots, some spots it's really easy. You can just take a quad up to the top of the hill and look over a couple of different ponds. There's some areas that are actually some of our better areas that it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit more difficult to get in there and see without, pushing the birds out, which is, you don't want to be doing. You want those birds to be relaxed and especially if you got a hunt planned on that pond coming up. So yeah, it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts besides corn to plant, like anything else, like millet or something like that?
Yeah, we tried some millet last year. We did a little bit of millet this year, but only a couple of test spots, and none of that has taken yet. It's some of the soil is quite salty, and so we not a lot grows in that particular area except for this weird grass. So we're just trying to figure out where stuff grows. Next year we have a plan we also want to put in some sunflowers and try to increase the dove hunting, because we actually have some pretty good dove hunting on the property too, which has been great. We found a new spot this year that's been successful. And, so yeah, we got all sorts of plans. We moved some cattle into the north end of the property, and we're hoping that the cattle kind of clear the area so that we can potentially put corn in there, because there's a lot of really good soil in that part of the property, but it's just so overgrown. What happened was the guy that developed it originally really did a great job with it, and it really produced a lot of birds back in the day. And then the previous owners that we bought it from were 4 or 5 guys that just used it for, their personal use. And so it wasn't really cared for in the way that like a professional club would be cared for. I think they did fine. They did they did what they wanted to do on the property or whatever. But I think there's a lot more potential to the property than where we're at now. And that's what we're trying to, we want to just work on year after year and build back that, just make it as ducky as we possibly can.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the area that you guys are in too is a phenomenal area, well known, like a lot of birds come through there. So, I mean, you're in the heart. I mean,
yeah, we really are.
You got a cool place. You really got a cool place there.
Great.
And to be able to test that and try that, like you said, it's like whatever you do this year, you ain't gonna know till next year.
Yep.
What it is, and it's gonna take 5, 6, 7 years, to get it really dialed in. But
yeah,
at least you have a really good base too,
Yeah. I think it'll be that 5, 6 year mark where we kind of really have things figured out. Already the amount that we've learned just from last year to this year. Right. We didn't even, there was a pond that we hardly even worked on last year. I mean, we didn't hardly do anything to it because we didn't know. And that ended up being one of our best ponds, one of our, highest bird ponds. And so we put a lot more work into that this year. And, so things like that, you just don't know until you get out there and do it.
Yeah. So pretty much whatever you're going to do on the property this year is done. Like there's nothing else that you're going to do because season's pretty much almost on us, right?
Yeah. 2 weeks. We got a couple more blinds that we want to, we want to decorate a little bit better. But other than that, it's pretty well ready to go. We had one blind that the cows
tore up,
kind of destroyed.
Those stinking cows, man, they love getting it.
It's terrible. We try to put these Russian olive branches that have those spikes to like guard it. Next year, we're going to our cowboy told us he'd put some hot wire around them so we can protect our blinds a little bit better. But yeah.
Now, is this in the off season? You're having issues with the cows, or is it during season?
Well, this was just like 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
so yeah, off season. We kind of, Tom had put a bunch of work into this blind, and he's like, "You want to see what I did to it?" And I said, "Sure, let's go check it out." And it was just demolished.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but sometimes during the season, we try to keep the cows out of our primary hunting areas because we can block them off, put them here, put them there, and so we try to minimize the the amount of interaction with the cows during the season, but it's kind of inevitable. They go where they want. So,
so having this place and this property and this new thing for you and your dad, what did last season look like? How'd you guys do out there?
It was awesome. We didn't know what to expect, right? We don't know what a good season is versus a bad season. But for us, we came from primarily like public land hunting and, grinding it out and hiking in and super early mornings and kayaking. We did all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So it's such a huge difference compared to that. It is certainly a dream, but last year we just we didn't even know what we didn't know. And so for us, it was a phenomenal year. Talking to some of the local guides and some friends that were, that are guides in the area, it was not as good as a year as they've had, right? It was a pretty poor year, especially for ducks. What happened was we had such an early freeze. By middle of November, everything was frozen. And so, and that typically doesn't happen, they said, until the end of December. So we had a really early freeze. So by January, there was almost no ducks left in the area. They had all pushed through. There's still some goose hunts, but yeah, ducks were hard to come by at that point. So this year could look totally different, but I mean, we had such an awesome year last year. It's, if that's a bad year, then we're right. That's great. That's great.
Yeah. Are you keeping good notes on the personal notes on the ponds and like keeping track and record of everything?
Oh yeah. Yep. I got a spreadsheet that tallies the birds. I know the species we shot, how many we shot throughout the year. I got all that recorded. I didn't do so good in January, but we didn't hunt that much in January just because there wasn't as many birds. But I got pretty good notes. And I want to keep that year after year after year to see what type of growth and where we're shooting birds and, what kind of numbers are coming in. So.
Right. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of that, and just in general anyways, let alone having your own property and having somewhere like you need to know how to do it and how to change things or move things or plant things or whatever. But I really like tracking all my stuff. I've been doing that for, I think this will be my 4th season doing that, and man, it pays off. It really does, because especially on public land too, like what wind works at this refuge, what wind works at this public land spot, which one doesn't. Don't waste your time. I mean, it pays off.
Yeah. I mean, I could even go a lot deeper. I just pretty much did like the blind we hunted, what kind of weather and the birds that were shot. And a couple of them I recorded temperature on a few of the hunts, not all of them, but yeah, you can get down to such good detail. And I'm looking at this, for the hunts that I'm trying to put together with you this year. I'm looking at, the numbers and like, okay, well, this is when we shot most of the ducks. Otherwise I wouldn't really know that. You forget those things throughout the year.
Right.
Like when was that hunt that we did so well, and now I can just kind of go back and look at the notes. It's awesome.
Yeah. That being said, talking about hooking up with you, I know we're going to be doing it in the beginning of December. How's the old numbers look then?
Yeah.
We're actually already going to be up there for a reason anyways. So,
so
another reason.
December is, December was okay. Beginning of December was okay, but it had just frozen. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of when the freeze happened, like 2 weeks earlier than that. And
Mm-hmm.
uh, it was fine. Wasn't there a November time that you were thinking as well?
Possibly, yeah. I was supposed to some things. I just found out today it changed a little bit with that with the people that were going with me, but I'm still, yeah. I will definitely hash that out with you
Okay.
afterwards because there's a people change on that one. So
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
don't know how. Yeah, I don't know what happened, but there's some personal deals there. So I'll talk to you. I just found out today. Otherwise, I would have actually already told you this. But anyways, yeah, mid November is definitely a very well. Actually, yeah, no, we're still. I mean, let's just put it this way. I like Washington a lot.
Yeah.
And I do like going up there. So there is some other stuff we got going on that I did talk to you about opposite of this other one. Maybe I'm getting those two mixed up, but there's definitely stuff in November for sure.
Yeah.
And that's probably
November was
your
our best, for sure.
mm-hmm,
But the
mm-hmm,
freeze kind of, I think, threw a wrench in the whole thing. Like, most people, they're not going to know this, but we had a hunt planned last year where you were going to come hunt with us and we were going to film.
yes.
But I had to cancel. We just didn't have any birds. And the day that you were supposed to come in, I did actually go out and hunt and never even pulled the trigger. So it was a
Wow.
good call that we canceled on that. But but we did have that planned last year. So this year,
Yep.
and who knows, that weekend might be awesome this year.
Right.
We'll end up seeing. There's a
Yeah, it's
lot.
duck hunting. I mean, what do you
Yeah.
do?
You
But here's the
can't
other
really.
thing too. I've been watching the winter forecast. This guy is really, really accurate. You guys have heard me talk about him before. It's direct weather. A younger guy. And there's another one someone just told me about that they listen to, but I've listened to this other guy so much I kind of like watching him better. But he was saying that the winter forecast for he does the whole United States, but he showed the whole graph he shows, and he's very accurate, like one of the most accurate people I've ever watched. But he definitely shows your guys' area, like Central Oregon North is definitely going to have a warmer, drier year. When they say warmer, that just means on averages, right? Doesn't mean you're going to
Yeah.
have a hot winter.
Yeah,
He's just
yeah.
saying it could be 2 degrees warmer than it was last year on average.
On average.
So,
Okay.
but that might, honestly though, you've hunted there your whole life. I've only got about 5 years going to Washington, and I feel like I've noticed that's not a bad thing because you're so far north. It's just kind of keeps the birds around longer, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I think that was the big issue this last year. Is we froze so early that by the time the freeze was there, for 3 or 4 weeks, the birds are gone by that point, and they never came back. It never really warmed up fully. I mean, it kind of did. We had some birds return, but yeah, that early freeze really, I think, at least that's my assessment. I could be wrong. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it just blew the birds out earlier than normal, and so we
Yeah, I mean,
didn't.
if they don't got water to sit in, I mean, they're not going to stick around,
Yeah,
because that was an
and
extreme freeze, wasn't it?
we had a lot of snow as well. And when
Yeah,
there's 6, 7, 8 inches of snow on the feed, they're going
right.
to look for easier feed at that point.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, yeah. You're in a really cool area. I've actually been up there. I've only been up there once, but it was hunting somewhere else up there, and I was like, man, this is a great looking area. Just a lot of ag, just a
yeah,
lot of water, a lot of opportunities for birds to be around. But um, what's your plans for the future as far as out there? Do you got any big plans, new plans, anything you got going on?
I mean, as far as the property goes, just continuing to develop it, right? Like, just year after year, try to make, as many changes as we can, test them out.
Mm-hmm.
We'll keep doing what works. We'll bail on what doesn't work. So as far as the property, we'll just keep developing it.
Mm-hmm.
Duck hunting specific, and that's just exciting in and of itself. That's fun to do. We want to continue to make some duck videos. We shot a handful of videos last year, which was really fun. So we're going to continue doing that. So if anybody wants to tune in and see the hunts on the property, then that's Motion Ducks on YouTube. And then as far as the future with the company, it's just continue to grow, and we're working on some cool products. Some of this stuff takes way longer than typically expected, but hopefully over the next year, the next couple years, we'll get some new products on board. We actually want to work on some electric stuff, even though we couldn't even use it here in Washington. But one of the things that we have a lot of our customers tell us they do is they'll hook an electric decoy up to one of the arms of our spreader. So that'll move around and move the other 3 decoys on the spreader at the same time. We have a lot of guys that do that. And then if the battery dies, you just hook up the pull cord and you got a jerk line. And so, that's something we've considered working on, stuff like that. So yeah, just continue to grow and develop and come out with, some new stuff. And
I got a suggestion on that. If you're going to make something, I'll throw my advice and a tip in now.
Hit me.
Whatever you make for that, and I think you should, Ben, I really think you should make something like that. I wish I was more inventive and could do that stuff myself, because there's so many different things I would do as a hunter, because I just constantly trying to think of the better thing to do. Is you need to make something like that for sure, but you got to make it light and you got to make it quiet, because then it just defeats the whole purpose. Now, that being said, and I don't know how you do that, but to me, it's almost a waste if it's not. And I'll explain to you something here. And I guarantee I know what those guys you're saying use a arm or a battery operated deal. I can't think of their names right now. There's a group of guys that make those automatic pullers. Thomas actually bought one. They're very expensive.
Yeah, they are.
And not to downplay them and hurt anybody, in my opinion, for me, not saying it's not worth it for someone else, but for us that are public land hunters that got to pack in and try to be as light as you can, because we're pushing everything, we're carrying everything on our back. It was noisy. Like, it was heavy and noisy, because if I remember right, I don't want to say if it was a 12-volt battery. I can't remember. I think it was. So the battery was heavy. The box that sits in, it was an automatic arm, and it did this. It kind of like rotated, but it was very loud. And we actually used it several times on hunts just to test it out with your motion ducks, because we love the product. So we're like, okay, perfect. Now we don't have to sit here and pull this thing. We'll hook it up to this and use it. And for us, like I said, hiking in, packing in, it just was not worth it. And I feel like it was just too noisy, and birds were hearing that thing, because it was to me, it was kind of loud. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah. No, there's
got to be a way to work around that. I don't know how, but
yeah. I don't think. There's certainly a market for them, but yeah, if you're going to be hiking in at all, it's that stuff gets so heavy. Heavy.
It does.
And so
I think the guys that made this product actually are I believe they're somewhere in the South, Arkansas or something like that. And they have massive, crazy spreads. Yeah. They're in the timber.
Yep.
I mean, it's honestly for them, it's probably perfect. It's not going to affect anything. It's just for us on the West Coast, it's kind of a little bit different, trickier deal.
Yeah. And that was actually one of the things, being that our product is a pull cord, it's manual. We weren't sure initially if there was going to be a huge demand outside of, the handful of states that limit electronic use, like California and Washington and Oregon. And what we found was that was the complete opposite. People actually typically, like the big, heavy electric stuff, the battery can die, it fails, it's super expensive.
Gotta charge it.
You gotta charge it. It becomes almost like too cumbersome. And so, we found that that most people definitely prefer it's going to work every time if you're hooking it up and pulling it.
Yeah. As long as your arm moves, it's moving.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. But in spite of that, there's still a market for it. I don't think we would develop an auto jerk just because, just because, yeah, those are so they require so much, and they're so heavy and they're big and bulky and all of that. What I was more referring to was an actual decoy, a powered decoy itself.
Oh, okay.
And there's a handful of them out there. But we want to work on something that's specific for our product that will actually, so you have one of the decoys that's powered, and that'll move around. So it'll shift the other ones around at the same time. We wouldn't
Oh,
develop an auto
gotcha.
jerk. We've considered it in the past, but those concerns you brought up are what we discussed.
Yep.
Like, is it even really is that the direction that we would want to go? Because our product really does work so good for the public land hunter,
Yep.
And so, yeah, anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that. I mean, because then you start veering off of your origin of how you started, why you started.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to get too far from that. If anything, like you said, you want to make that product better.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
It's pretty tough to do, but having something like you're saying is a good option to have, like almost like a backup type of thing, which would be really sweet, an option to have. But it's hard to beat your own self, use.
Yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
that's always there.
It's a discussion that we've had a lot. Like, should we add this or add that or try to, but the product, it works so well.
Yeah.
I mean, you hunt educated birds, and there's hunts where we've had that it like made late season educated birds. It felt like opening day again. They just dumped in, it like switched something in their brains. So the product works so good. It's like trying to add stuff to it might deter it, might take away from the simplicity and the effectiveness of the product as is. So there's that component as well. I mean, do we really need to even add more to it? Because it is.
Yeah.
It's a great product.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, if anything, like you said, you could just do something totally different that just to keep business going and grow or whatever. I mean, like, this is totally off subject of spreaders or decoys, but like my biggest thing, and I wish I would invent it myself, that way I can make the money and profit, because I know it would sell big, and I'm letting everybody that listens to this have the idea and run with it if they want, I guess, but is a dog stand that is compact, that doesn't take up such a big footprint. I use Momarsh dog stand all the time, and it's nice for the dog, don't get me wrong, but I have a 90-pound lab, and he still only uses half of that thing. And if you're hunting in environments like I am, that takes a big footprint up. When the birds are flying over from the air, they're seeing a big black hole down there because I'm smashing all the toys down just to hide his dog stand. You can make something half the size of that. I mean, they still could be comfortable if they want, but I mean, it doesn't have to be like a king size bed out there for him.
It's luxury for that dog.
Yeah, literally. But anyways, yeah, it's things like that. You start thinking everything's been created and it's done, and like, I don't think there's nothing else you could do, and then you come out with a product like you did. It's like, wow, this is a game changer. Like you said, here's the thing. Another cool thing about motion ducks is the fact that another thing you got to be careful of and pay attention to is not overcalling on stagnant birds, because they've heard every call and every guy blow their kazoo around them, and that even causes them. In fact, it's crazy how silent birds get when they're pressured. They really don't even talk to each other, even when they're on their own little turf. At least I've noticed that in some of our grasslands here, is they get really quiet. You would think there ain't a bird out there, and you're walking out there, all of a sudden 200 birds flush out there, and you're like, man, they weren't even chatting. They weren't talking to each other. They were quiet because they know they got to stay quiet. And so that's one thing nice about that is, hey, put the duck call down and just keep the motion going. Even if you see something, you don't have to sit there and call at them.
Yeah. Yeah. My idea on calling is just to try to mimic the birds. If the birds are yapping and they're talking a lot, then I'll call more. But if they're quiet, then just no calling at all. Because I mean, it changes, man. They learn, especially bad calling. I'm not a great caller. I mean, I'm all right. I can throw a quack out there, but you know, they hear it all the way down the flyway. You know, they're hearing all the bad calling and the good calling. And then I personally, the ducks seem to get so stinking smart. I think they can tell a difference at some point. I mean, man, they get smart.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's just the habit of most duck hunters. Seabird call.
Yeah.
Seabird call. It's like, well, ducks aren't always doing that, and that's what our goal is, to imitate what they do, and that's something we're all learning. We're constantly learning, right? You think you got it dialed in, and then a day happens, and you're like, well, I thought that's what I did last time, and it worked, but it ain't working this time.
It doesn't work, or it does work all of a sudden.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, it's
a challenge. I think that's what draws us back to it. It's such a challenge, and it's wild game, and it's just trying to figure them out and be the best you can.
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I even looking at my notes here, I've got a day here. We shot 3 ducks, and then the next day had a 3-man limit, same pond. It's like, what is that? It's wild. It's wild. So, I mean, it really does. You just got to get out there, and you got to hunt, and you're going to have some slow days, and you're going to have some killer days. It's just really a matter of just getting out there as much as you can, and, trying to be on the X, but sometimes you hit it and sometimes you don't.
Right. Yeah, that's tough. Well, I think we covered everything, unless there's something we missed that you were wanting to chat about.
No, I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah, I wanted to just throw this out there again. Guys, check out motionducks.com/MVM. And when you go in there, that's already a really good deal in itself, because it gives you the ultimate spreader when you purchase that. But then on top of that, type in the code MIDVALLEY, all one word, MIDVALLEY, and you'll get an additional 10% off. And I'm telling you right now, that's a great deal. Like, it's the best deal out there you can find, and you're not going to regret it. I promise you, you won't. If you've been on the fence about it, you've been thinking about adding something to your spread different that you've ever done, I'm telling you, that's the thing that you want to do. I promise you.
Yeah.
It's always with us. It's always with us.
Yeah. And we're shipping every day right now, so you'll get it quick. So as soon as you order, we'll be shipping it either that day or the next day. But we'll try to get it to you as quick as possible, and got to put it to use. Got to try it out.
Oh, you won't regret it. I promise you that. So check it out, motionducks.com/MVM. Also check out his Instagram, Facebook, and really check out their YouTube channel. They got some great hunts on there, and it'll give you the chance to see the property. Ben, you did some videos on it and some drone shots too, I believe, on that one.
Shots of the property. Yeah, you can check.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. If you want to kind of visualize and see what we were talking about in this episode, you could go there and check that out too.
And the other thing is, we posted a few videos about planting some corn and stuff like that. They only, people just don't seem to care as much about that stuff. So we haven't really continued that all that much. But if you guys do want to see it, if you're interested in that, then leave a comment on those videos and let us know. We could certainly post more about, working on the blinds and the planting the corn and all of those, that kind of upkeep stuff. If people want to see it, it's certainly not, not as cool as the hunting, but yeah, there's loads of stuff. And we're going to try to put out as many hunting videos as we can this year. We have the corn as well. So hopefully we'll get some goose hunts in. We did a couple goose hunts with some friends last year, but, and filmed those, but, hopefully we'll get some on our property, which should be awesome. That's going to be loads of fun. Who knows?
I love to see that.
And here, we'll have a chance to do a day of goose and a day of duck, or both in the same.
That would be cool. So yeah, that'd be awesome.
We'll try to figure that out.
Yeah, guys, stay tuned for that, to see that on both channels, and I'm actually looking forward to being up there. We were both pretty bummed when it didn't work out last time, but if the birds aren't there, they ain't there. There's nothing you can do about it too. Yeah. So
no, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be great. I hope it works out. Whether it happens,
me too.
once or even twice, yeah, we'll definitely be filming it from both angles, and yeah, put
Yeah,
some videos out.
sounds good. Yeah, stay tuned, guys, for it. All right, guys, thanks for listening in this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Check it out, and we'll see you guys on the next one.